Hi all, let's have a look at game 3 of the tie breaks. So Magnus just needs a draw to still be World Chess Champion. So in that view, he's probably going to shape the opening to have good drawing chances. That's all he needs. So Sicilian defense from Fabiano, knight f3, e6, c4. So setting up a kind of motifs bind, keen for that structure, which is like a glove on black's piece activity. It keeps a grip. The pawns are the fundamental constraint of the pieces, and in rapid chess he's often used motifs bind against the Sicilian in key situations, like against Sergey Karjakin. I remember he had great results with the motifs bind. It's not giving black too much counterplay. It's a low risk choice in the circumstances, and in fact we see that theme kind of echoed here. Knight c2, with ideas of just exchanging off pieces later and sometimes reinforcing this dreaded motifs bind. So reinforcing d5 is reinforcing the clamp on black's pieces, which is minimizing the risk of losing. So the most popular move is knight b3, hitting the bishop. And this aims to get white at least a small edge out of the opening, this type of position. So Magnus has shied away from that and preferred, in fact, knight c2. Slightly unusual. Knight f6. There's a critical test actually as well tactically. Queen b6, which seems at first a little bit awkward actually, because the bishop can't be used that easy because of b2. If bishop e3, for example, taking, and then queen takes b2. So probably better is queen e2, safeguarding f2, and now this should be just an even position. But yeah, it seems actually playable, even though it looks a bit optimistically tactical. Queen b6, it seems actually a move here. But anyway, knight f6, knight c3, black castles, bishop e3. Magnus really doesn't mind simplification. He just needs a draw. b6. On bishop takes e3, the motifs bind is reinforced after knight takes. This position, white really heavily reinforces that d5 control, that grip on black's position means a low risk scenario. There is, by the way, a little trap to point out. Bishop h3, it's not a good idea in this situation to take because of knight f3 check. So apart from ridiculous things which would never happen, it's pretty low risk. Okay, so let's go back. So in the game we actually have b6 keeping some tension in position and saying, you know, sometimes if white takes, then to drag another pawn to the center, which is thought to be a good idea in general. And also, of course, there'd be this active b file if white took. Bishop e2, bishop b7, Magnus Carlsen's queen e7, queen d2. So it's just the lock and key, basically. It's like padlocking black's position, this motifs bind at the moment. Rook fd8. Black might dream of d5, but that dream is being addressed with all of white's play focused on the d5 square. Knight e5. In fact, Magnus does take on c5 now. Although it does drag a pawn to the center, there's a bishop there. It's going to take some time to use that b file. And is it that effectual? If the queen had taken, in fact, white might be able to play b4 and queen d4. This seems fine. For example, taking and then c5. And you'll notice there's a 3-2 pawn majority here to play for. And this blockade on d4, it seems safe enough. White has a small edge. So anyway, b takes, and we have now f4, knight g6, and e4 is under fire here. So how to protect it? Well, Magnus chose queen e3. It also seems possible to play bishop f3. That seems plausible as well. Queen e3, d6. To demonstrate d5 for a moment, c takes, e takes, e takes. This position should be even. Although there's simplification, there's no real harm to white to do this on d5. So black really needs to try and keep some tension in the position going. Very hard to do, especially with the black pieces. And if we just look at this again, though, if e5 is played, that is a bit dodgy, actually, just for the record here. d4, e takes, queen takes. This is actually dodgy for white after queen f5. For example, knight g3, queen takes c2. Yeah, that's to be avoided. So basically on d5, just c takes. Just to recap, c takes. And just don't mind the queens coming off. White just needs a draw. So d6 is played though. Rook d2 is just reinforcing that d5 square. a6, rook a1. Very simple, effective, clamp style play. Rook c-bind style play. Queen c7, b3, h6, g3. And look at this kind of pawn structure Magnus is choosing for the potentially last game of this year's World Championship. This kind of, yeah, upside down, this triangle structure. It's visually impressive. Rook d7, bishop f3. Again, sort of the triangle formation, just pointing, everything really pointing at d5 here. It looks visually kind of impressive. Rook e8, queen f2, knight e7. We have h3. So what could black possibly do with this huge clamp on the position? Rook e d8, king g, bishop drops back actually, bishop g2, knight c6. Magnus is tempted to play g4 now, as though he is playing for a win, or is it sometimes just the option of g5, just to really discourage d5? There's the option of g5, which is having an influence over the d5 square. So in a way, it's still in line with the d5 play here. We have queen a5, okay, hitting the knight. Knight a4, actually now g5, if white has another move and this knight went back, there's a pin on d6, so knight takes c5 would be on. I'll put that on the board for you. Say bishop a8, just to demonstrate, g5, hg. Knight goes back, so the rook is less protected now by the knight, and then we have bang, knight takes c5 is plausible and good. So, for example, like that, big advantage. Black, if in this situation, maybe this is the best that black could do, which is terrible. White would still have a big advantage. So that's something to be aware of here, the tactics with g5 and knight takes c5. So the queen actually just steps back. Magnus has got things under control here. This is like a really ideal position. He's really matched the opening with his requirements here, which is just to draw the game and make sure he's playing with minimal risk. So no open Sicilian or anything trendy, just this big, gigantic Maroczy bind, basically, formation. The V, upside down V. Bishop V for victory in reverse. Yeah. All right, let's not get carried away. So queen c7, just to show, was there anything else to show? Not really. Queen c7 drops back. Actually, now Magnus wants to simplify things, and this move does the job. e5. If white wants to try for more, but there's a risk, keeping the tension in the position, it seems also g5 can at least try and aim for an advantage after knight e3. And in fact, there's hack attack potential, just to show for fun, knight g4, this h-file. There's actually a use of the Maroczy bind here to go for a big hack attack, Lula style. But, yeah, that's just fictional. White doesn't need to do this. e5 does the job. It simplifies. So d takes, knight takes, rook takes. The rooks are all coming off. That's good. We have now, bishop a8. And now f takes e5. Queen takes e5. On knight takes e5, which does expose an attack on the c5 knight, and that would be check. White does have knight takes e6 here. And for example, this is an even position. If check, there's queen d4. So black in this position would have to play knight takes c4 more accurately, and then should be about even. Okay, so we have actually queen takes e5, though, being played. Knight d7, and this really forces more things off. yeah, there's no point doing anything else actually. Queen e3, there's queen b2, and for example like this, is another way, more tactical, to get to an evenish position. That's plausible as well actually. Bishop takes c6 is one to avoid. Queen takes, and then queen takes c6, losing, with a losing position. But yeah, knight d7 is one of the great options here. Queen b2. Now if knight takes d7, queen takes d7, queen b8, this is interesting. Bishop takes, check. It just leads to an equal position, which favours white. Of course, he just needs a draw again. And just to check out these lines, if king h8, funny enough, queen c8 here, this position is very good. White's just emerging with a piece up and a one position. So black has to tread carefully. So knight takes d7 is not played actually. So, sorry, knight d7, queen b2. Queen b2 is played. And now a really, really powerful move for the circumstances. Absolutely brilliant. Queen d6 with the idea of aiming for a perpetual check after taking on f6, bang bang on f7. Just to demonstrate, if queen takes c2, check, knight takes f6 check. And now note, by the way, the knight's also cheekily controlling e4. So if king g6, there's actually bishop e4 check, forking king and queen here. So this really does mean that black should take here. And then we have a perpetual check, and Magnus is still world champion. So the draw means a great deal in these circumstances. And that's one great way of achieving it after queen takes c2. On bishop takes c6, then that's trouble actually. This is trouble territory with these checks, and taking here, check, and then knight f8, black's going to have a big advantage. So yeah, there's a great way to play it here after queen d6. So knight takes d7 is played, queen takes c2, check. This is the most accurate way of playing it. If bishop takes c6, then black can play this check, take on a2 a check, take on c6, and still have some winning chances. White definitely doesn't want this. So check and scoop up that bishop, because the bishop's left behind to protect the king. Doesn't matter about perpetual checks, that's not a concern, that's a draw, that's fine as the outcome. So yes, this long range bishop, and also you'll note here the 3-to-1 pawn majority is very powerful and a long-term win for white, if not put in check, so to speak. Check, and then we have check here, and now knight d4. Knight e5 doesn't really do too much. There's check, for example, and then b4, and these pawns are getting underway. If takes, queen takes e5. If queen d1 check, and here it's just equal, that's fine as well. So knight d4 doesn't really, knight e5 doesn't really do much. So knight d4 was tried. There's check, f5. On king g8, then again, just start pushing these pawns. The 3-to-1 pawn majority gets underway. So f5, g takes, e takes, knight takes f5 doesn't really do too much either. Queen can just drop back. This looks as though, is there something naughty going on? But not really. There's nothing really the queen and knight can do in a hurry, more than draw, basically. So e takes, queen e3, knight e6, b4. Now we have knight g5. Probably safer is knight f4. But black doesn't need a draw. You know, this position is just even. Queen takes is dropping the knight. So, yeah, not too many choices. But maybe knight f4 to be preferred. But we have knight g5 instead. And the pawn majority is just being pushed. c5, queen f6, c6. Now, the only chance to stay in the game here well, maximum resistance is queen d6. Try and keep a blockade. But even here, queen c1, this is now just better for white. Queen c4 with ideas of queen d5. So here, for example, white has a small edge anyway. But this, what's played, is a bit sad now from a sort of emotional perspective. Okay, perhaps knight e6. This is just a crushing position now after a4. Black's really not doing anything here. Magnus has done a Leela, basically, simplified with a pawn majority. That's one of the ways Leela beat the mighty Stockfish in one of the videos on the channel you might want to check out recently. A 3-to-1 pawn majority, which is difficult to sort of put a break on here now. We see knight c7, queen f4, challenging the blockader. Knight e6, queen d6, check, knight d4, c7. Yeah, it's just gone. Queen c3, queen c5, interrupting the queen, stopping the pawn. Here, and now queening. Yep, there's no perpetual checks or anything now. f4 is played. On queen f4 check, just king h1. Where are the checks? So f4, it's all over. Extra queen up. There's no tricks here. Here it was resigned. So congratulations to Magnus Carlsen for keeping his World Chess Champion title. So a fantastic performance in the rapid. And he was confident. Yeah, he's confident in his rapid and blitz abilities for sure. If the game continued here, just for the record, f3, just take this knight. On a5, what does white do to win quickly? Probably just queen f8 is good. And here, bishop e4 to drag the queen away from g7. For example, like this. Okay. So anyway, yep. That was it. I hope you enjoyed my analysis of these games. Some people might have thought the first part, the classical matches, could have been a bit more exciting with some decisive results. Okay, we didn't get that this year. But on paper, the players were quite evenly matched on FIDE rating for the classical. So I think Magnus is good at choosing his battlegrounds, basically. The art of war. He chooses his battles carefully. And I think he can be forgiven now for offering a draw in a slightly better position. Well, a good position with black in that game 12. So anyway, okay. If you enjoyed analysis in general, please click on the top left box, which will, if you want to become a member at chessworld.net, which is my correspondence style site, you can play against other YouTubers. You can also check the YouTube analysis of this and other games from the improved menu Learn from the Masters YouTube order. Okay, and analysis updates could become available soon, especially for the World Championship games. Comments, questions, donations, see the description. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all really appreciated. Thanks very much.